Right now, as you read these words, millions of men are dying inside in relationships where they are treated like trash. Men who wake up every day wondering why she doesn't respect them anymore, why every attempt to please only makes things worse, why the more they give in, the less she values them. And the worst part is you're probably one of them. Think about your day yesterday. How many times did you swallow something you wanted to say? How many times did you agree when inside you completely disagreed? How many times did you say it's okay when, in reality, you were dying inside? These small daily deaths accumulate, like drops of water eroding stone. Every concession is an erosion of your identity. Every silence is another brick in the wall you've built between who you are and who you pretend to be. And she notices, maybe not consciously, but on a primitive, visceral level, she knows something is wrong, that the man next to her isn't real. It's a performance, a mediocre act by someone desperately trying to be loved. Society taught you that being the nice guy, always available, always understanding, always giving in, is the path to true love, that avoiding conflict and prioritizing her desires above all else is a sign of emotional maturity, that a real man is one who never sets boundaries, never disagrees, never chooses himself. But the truth no one tells you is that this isn't love, this is emotional suicide disguised as romance. And while you're busy being the perfect boyfriend by Disney standards, she's losing all attraction and respect for you. Not because she's bad, but because you've become invisible. An emotional doormat she steps on every day without even noticing anymore. Do you remember the beginning of the relationship? When you first met, you were different. You had your own opinions, you said no when you didn't want something. You had your own plans, your own friends, your own life. And that's exactly what attracted her, your individuality, your independence, your own well-defined territory. But then fear set in. Fear of losing her, fear of not being good enough, fear of conflict. And you started to give in. Small things at first. The restaurant she preferred, the movie she wanted to see, the weekend with her friends instead of yours. Seemingly insignificant concessions that accumulated like a slow-motion avalanche, until one day you woke up and realized there was nothing left of who you were. Do you think I'm exaggerating? That your case is different? That she loves you the way you are? Then answer me one thing. When was the last time she looked at you with real desire in her eyes? When was the last time she respected a decision of yours without questioning it? When was the last time you said no to something important and stood your ground? You don't even remember, because it's been so long since you gave up your personal territory that you don't even know where your borders were anymore. I'll tell you something no couples therapist will admit. Women test constantly. It's not malice. It's not conscious manipulation. It's biology. It's evolution. They need to know if the man next to them is capable of protecting, of leading, of holding his ground when the pressure mounts. And how do they find that out? By testing, by pushing limits, by creating small conflicts to see how you react. And you fail every test. You give in at the first pressure. You retreat at the first sign of discomfort. And every time you do that, she loses a little more respect, a little more attraction, until there's nothing left but contempt disguised as tolerance. Phil was 34, a graphic designer. He'd been dating a woman for 2 years, whom everyone said was perfect for him. Beautiful, intelligent, funny. The problem started subtly. At parties, she would flirt with other guys in front of him. Nothing serious, she'd say, just being friendly. Phil would laugh along, pretend he didn't care. After all, secure men don't show jealousy, right? But inside, Phil was at war. His stomach would churn every time she touched another man's arm while laughing. His heart would race when she exchanged phone numbers for professional networking. His mind would create scenarios, images, possibilities that tortured him during sleepless nights. But he never said anything. He kept smiling, he kept pretending, he kept dying inside. Because confronting her would be admitting weakness, right? It would be showing insecurity. And modern men aren't insecure. They're understanding, evolved, pathetic. Then the provocations increased. She started comparing him to other men. The friend who made more money, the ex who was taller, the co-worker who had bigger muscles. Phil kept laughing, being understanding, modern, evolved. You should go to the gym like Marcus, she'd say casually while Phil ate his dinner. Not that I care, but it would be good for your health. And Phil would agree. He'd promised to start on Monday. Always Monday, never today. Because deep down he knew it wasn't about the gym, it was about power, about control, about the fact that she could say anything and he would accept it, like a trained dog that doesn't even bark anymore. One day he came home early, she was on the phone, laughing, that special way, with another man. When she saw Phil, she didn't even bother to hang up. She continued the conversation for another 10 minutes while he stood there, talking about intimate things, inside jokes, shared memories. Phil was a ghost in his own house, invisible, irrelevant. When she finished, she looked at him with that empty gaze we reserve for familiar furniture. She said she was tired, that she wanted some space, that he was too nice, that she didn't feel anything anymore. Phil tried to argue, he pleaded, he promised to change, to be different, better, but it was too late. You can't change for someone who no longer sees you. You can't reclaim territory that has been completely abandoned. You can't resurrect attraction that died of starvation. It was over. Phil spent the next 6 months trying to understand where he went wrong. Therapy, self-help, friends' advice. Everyone said the same thing, that he did everything right, that she was the problem, that he deserved someone better. Comforting lies to preserve the narrative. The truth was simple and brutal. Phil was never a man in that relationship. He was a convenient accessory, a walking validator, a nobody with a name and social security number. You're thinking Phil was an idiot for not acting sooner, but you do the same thing. Every single day, just in different ways. When she cancels your date at the last minute for the 3rd time this month, and you accept with a smile. When she makes decisions about both your lives without even consulting you. When she treats you like you're a convenient accessory, not a partner. You accept, you give in, you rationalize, and each time you do that, you die a little more inside. You know what's worse? You even try to convince yourself that you're being mature, that real men don't care about these small things, that choosing your battles is wisdom. But the truth is, you're not choosing battles. You're avoiding all of them, fleeing conflict like a child flees the boogeyman. And she knows. Every woman can identify a man who is afraid of confrontation. It's like a smell, a pheromone of weakness that you exude from every pore, and that kills any possibility of genuine attraction. The system doesn't want you to understand this. Couples therapy will tell you that you need to be more empathetic, more understanding, that the problem is your toxic masculinity. The media will reinforce that a good man is a man who never confronts. Your married friends will say that's just how it is, that relationships are sacrifice, and you will believe it, because it's easier to believe the lie than to face the brutal truth that you have become a man without your own territory, personal territory. That's the war you're losing without even knowing you're in combat. Imagine the relationship as a medieval map. Each person has their own kingdom, their impassable mountains, their uncrossable rivers, their fortified cities. When you function well, you defend your borders while respecting hers. There is trade between the kingdoms, alliances, treaties, but each maintains its sovereignty. But you didn't just open the borders, you demolished the walls, burned the drawbridges, disbanded the army, handed over the crown. Your kingdom became no man's land, or worse, her land, and now she walks through your space as if it were her own backyard, plants her flags where yours once fluttered, rewrites the laws, changes the official language, and you watch, powerless because you yourself authorized the invasion, signed the surrender treaty with a smile on, your face thinking that was love. And you know what the most pathetic part is? You think this is love. You confused surrender with romance, submission with support, weakness with kindness. And now you're stuck in a dynamic where you are the emotional subordinate and she is the boss. Not because she wanted it, but because you created it. With every test you failed, with every boundary you didn't set, every time you chose temporary peace over lasting respect. I'm going to show you exactly how this works, how she tests, how you fail, and how it destroys everything. First comes the boundary test. Every woman does this. It's not malice, it's nature. She wants to know if you're real or a fraud. She's 40 minutes late without warning. You wait. She arrives and acts like nothing happened. And you say nothing. You smile. You pretend everything is fine. Congratulations. You just taught her that your time has no value, that you are an infinite resource she can waste. And she will, because you allowed it. But it doesn't stop there. The test evolves. Next time she's an hour late, then she cancels at the last minute, then she doesn't even cancel, she just doesn't show up. And you? You always forgive, always understand, always have an excuse ready for her behavior. She had a tough day. She's stressed with work. She forgot. You've become her defense attorney against yourself. Pathetic. You're thinking this is an exaggeration, that a delay means nothing. That's exactly what every victim thinks. And that's why they remain victims. The masculine frame is your ability to maintain direction in the relationship. It's not about dominating, it's about leading. But you handed over the steering wheel a long time ago. She decides where you go, what you do, how you live. You just follow, like an obedient puppy. And then you wonder why she doesn't desire you anymore, why sex has decreased, why she's always annoyed. It's because no woman wants to sleep with her subordinate. She wants a partner, an equal, someone she can respect, not a personal assistant with a penis. Think about the last important decision you made together. Who really decided? Who presented the options? Who had the final say? If you're honest, you'll admit it was her. You might have participated in the discussion, given your opinion, but in the end, when she made it clear what she wanted, you gave in, as always. And she registered that. One more confirmation that you are not a leader. You are a follower. And followers don't generate attraction. They generate boredom. External validation has become your drug. You need her approval to feel like a man. You ask if she loves you 10 times a day. You seek compliments like an addict seeks cocaine. You measure your worth by her mood. If she's happy, you exist. If she's angry, you panic. This isn't love, it's emotional dependence, and she knows it. Even if not consciously, she feels your desperation, your need, and that kills any remnant of attraction. You send a message and keep checking your phone, waiting for a reply. You count the minutes. If she takes too long, you send another, and another. Is everything okay? Did you see my message? Babe? Each message is a nail in the coffin of attraction. Every display of need is a confirmation that you have nothing else in your life besides her. And that is repulsive to any woman. Because if you don't have a life of your own, what value can you add to hers? Some men will rationalize by saying that showing feelings is healthy, and that's why they remain trapped in the cycle of disrespect. The principle of scarcity is basic economics applied to relationships. What is abundant has no value. What is scarce is precious. But you are always available, always present, always ready. She texts, you reply in seconds. She wants to go out, you cancel your plans. She needs something, you drop everything. You've become an infinite resource, and infinite resources are disposable, because there will always be more where that came from. Remember when you first met, you had a life, commitments, priorities. Sometimes you couldn't go out because you had other plans. Sometimes you took a while to reply because you were busy, and that intrigued her. It created mystery, challenge. She had to compete for your attention with other important things in your life, and that made her value the time you had together. But now you're an open book, predictable, available 24/7. No mystery, no challenge, no value. This is exactly you. And you know I'm right. Non-reactivity is where most men fail miserably. She creates drama, makes a scene, provokes you. And you explode or beg, or argue for hours. You enter her emotional frame and dance to her tune. She controls your emotions like a puppeteer controls strings. And then you wonder why she says you're immature, why she doesn't trust you with important decisions. It's because you've shown you can't even control your own emotions, let alone lead a family. She knows exactly which buttons to push, mentions the ex, compares you to another man, threatens to break up, and you react like a programmed robot, predictable, controllable. She presses the jealousy button, you become possessive. She presses the fear button, you beg. She presses the anger button, you yell. You've become a video game she plays when she's bored. And like any game that becomes too easy, she's losing interest. Logical consequence is the concept you never apply. Actions have consequences, except hers, because you always forgive, always overlook, always give another chance. She disrespects a boundary of yours, nothing happens. She breaks an agreement, You pretend you forgot. She crosses a line, you rebuild the fence further back, and so your territory shrinks until there's nothing left, until you are nothing but an echo. There what was once a man. And now comes the part that will really destroy you. Radical authenticity is impossible for you, because you don't even know who you are anymore. You've spent so long being who she wanted you to be that you forgot who you were. Your opinions are her opinions. Your tastes are her tastes. Your dreams are her dreams. You've become an emotional chameleon, changing color according to her mood. And she notices, even if unconsciously, she knows you're fake, that there's no real man there, just a projection of what you think she wants. You used to like rock music. Now you listen to country because she prefers it. You loved football. Now you spend Sundays at endless brunches with her friends. You dreamed of traveling the world. Now the most you plan is the all-inclusive resort she chose. Each concession seemed small at the time. It's not that important. Relationships are about compromise. I can learn to like it. Lies you tell yourself as you bury who you really are. Greg was 41, a project manager, married for 12 years. It started slowly, his wife making small decisions without consulting him, choosing the wall, color, the sofa model. He let it go. After all, she had good taste. Then came bigger decisions, where the children would study, how they would spend money, where they would live. Greg kept agreeing, avoiding conflict, being a good husband. The transformation was gradual, so gradual that Greg didn't even notice it happening. First, it was his friends. That friend of yours, Peter, drinks too much. Carl is a bad influence. Why do you need to go out with them every month? One by one, his friends disappeared. Not by explicit prohibition, by erosion, by making every outing so draining, so full of drama before and after, that it wasn't worth it anymore. Greg chose peace, always peace, even if the price was his support network, his decades-long friendships, his social identity outside of marriage. Then came his career. Greg had a job offer, 40% higher salary, but it involved moving cities. His wife didn't want to move away from her family. Argument, tears, veiled threats. Greg refused the offer. He chose peace. 3 years later, he was in the same job, same salary while watching former colleagues progress. But at least he had peace at home. Or did he? One day he realized he had become a ghost in his own house, an ATM with legs. His opinion didn't matter. His presence was optional. He existed only to provide and agree. When he tried to regain some control, she laughed, said he never cared before. Why now? And she was right. He had given up his territory years ago. Now it was too late to reclaim it. Greg tried couples therapy. He sat every week in a room with beige walls, while a woman in glasses explained how he needed to be more sensitive to his wife's needs, how his attempt to set boundaries was actually toxic masculinity manifesting, how he needed to work on his childhood traumas that made him want control. Greg paid $200 a session to be blamed for wanting to exist in his own marriage, and he kept paying, because it was easier than admitting he had wasted 12 years of his life. You think that's bad? You haven't seen anything yet. Ron, 29 years old, salesman, new relationship, 6 months. She would cancel dates every week, always with excuses. Work, tiredness, commitments. But when she wanted to go out, she expected him to drop everything. And he did. Always available, always understanding, always adaptable. The pattern quickly became clear. If Ron planned something, there was a 70% chance it would be cancelled. Romantic dinner he booked in advance, cancelled. She had cramps. His favorite band's concert, cancelled. Migraine. Weekend trip, cancelled. Work problems. But when she wanted to go to her cousin's birthday, Ron had to cancel his barbecue with friends. When she decided she wanted to spend the weekend at her parents' beach house, Ron had to cancel his plans, and he always cancelled, always gave in, always adapted. She started, taking hours to reply to his messages, but if he took 10 minutes, she would get furious. Classic double standard, and Ron accepted it, afraid of losing her, afraid of seeming controlling, afraid of conflict. That's just how she is, he'd tell his friends. Women are complicated. His friends agreed, all trapped in the same cycle, all normalizing the absurd, all dying inside while pretending everything was fine. The last straw came on a Friday. Ron had planned for weeks. Reservation at her favorite restaurant, tickets to the play she wanted to see. He had even bought new clothes for the occasion. At 6 p.m. she texted him, "Babe, a happy hour came up with the folks from work. See you tomorrow." It wasn't a question. It was a notification. Ron replied, "Okay, babe, have fun." But it wasn't okay. It never was. 6 months later, she broke up with him. By text, said he was too nice, that she wasn't attracted to him anymore, that she needed a real man. It was over. Lie. These men are you, at different stages of the same disease, the disease of the man without territory, without boundaries, without self-worth, and you will continue like this until you die. Unless you wake up now. No one tells you this, that respect is not given, it's earned. That attraction is not a choice, it's a response. That love without respect is pity disguised. That no woman wants a man she cannot admire. And how will she admire someone who doesn't even respect himself? Think of all the men she truly admired. Her father, perhaps, if he was present and strong. The boss who accepts no excuses. The teacher who maintained authority. The leader who made difficult decisions. All had something in common: clear boundaries, defined territory, a willingness to stand their ground even under pressure. And you? You are the opposite of all that. And she knows. And it frustrates her deeply, because deep down, she wanted you to be strong. She wanted to be able to admire you, but you don't give her that option. You chose to be weak, and now both of you pay the price. The system wants you this way: weak, malleable, controllable. The couples therapy industry makes billions keeping men in toxic relationships, telling them the problem is always theirs, that they need to be more sensitive, more open, more vulnerable. Lies. You are already too vulnerable, too open, too sensitive. What you need is a backbone, boundaries, your own territory. Every therapy session follows the same script. You express a legitimate concern. The therapist reframes it as your problem. Your need for respect becomes control issues. Your desire for reciprocity becomes unrealistic expectations. Your frustration with the lack of sex becomes unnecessary pressure, and you leave feeling worse, more confused, more guilty, paying a lot to be professionally gaslit, and you go back next week, because at least someone is listening, even if it's to blame you. The media reinforces the narrative. Every movie, every series. The nice guy who eventually gets the girl after being humiliated, rejected, used. But he persists. And in the end, she realizes he was always the right guy. Fantasy, fiction, a lie created to keep you docile. In real life, the nice guy doesn't get the girl, he gets the leftovers. What's left after she's tired of the men who truly attracted her. You watched these movies, internalized these lessons, believed that if you were patient enough, dedicated enough, understanding enough, she would eventually recognize your worth. But real life has no script, no guaranteed happy ending. And while you wait for your moment of cinematic redemption, she is living real life, with real men, who don't need redemption because they never gave up on themselves. Your married friends are even worse. They validate your weakness because they need to justify their own. They say relationships are sacrifice, that it's normal to give up everything. That happy is the man who has peace at home, even if that peace is bought with your dignity, even if that sacrifice is unilateral. They need you to remain weak so they don't feel alone, in their own misery. You gather, drink beer, complain about your wives, but always end with, "But that's just how it is." Women are complicated. At least I have someone. Mutual validation of mediocrity. A club of emotionally castrated men convincing themselves that this is maturity, that this is love, that this is the best they can get, and you believe it, because it's more comfortable to be wrong in a group than to be right alone. You know I'm right. Deep down, in the place you don't want to admit exists, you know. So what do you do? First, identify your non-negotiable boundaries. Not 10, not 20, 3 to 5 things you will not accept. Period. No discussion, no negotiation. It could be time, respect, fidelity, reciprocity, whatever. What matters is that they are yours, real, non-negotiable. And here's the trick. These boundaries cannot be generic. I want respect is not a boundary. It's a vague desire. I will not accept commitments with me being cancelled last minute more than once a month without a real emergency as a boundary. specific, measurable, applicable. I want more sex is not a boundary. I need physical intimacy at least once a week to feel connected in the relationship is a boundary. Clear, direct, unambiguous. Second, communicate these boundaries. Without drama, without threat, without ultimatum. Just communicate. Clearly, calmly, once. If she asks why, you don't justify. You don't explain. You don't defend. You just state. These are my boundaries. Period. The temptation will be to explain, to justify, to convince her that your boundaries are reasonable. Don't do that. The moment you start defending your boundaries, you've already lost. Boundaries don't need defense, they simply exist. Like gravity. You don't explain gravity, it just is. Your boundaries should have the same quality. Inevitable, non-negotiable, indisputable. You're thinking this will create conflict. Good. Conflict is better than slow death. Third, act accordingly. This is the hardest part, because it goes against everything you've been programmed to do. She will test, she will push, she will manipulate, she will cry, she will threaten, and you will hold your ground, not with anger, not with drama, with calm determination. Did she cross a boundary? Immediate consequence. No discussion, no second chance, no explanation. Action, consequence, period. Practical example. She cancels a date at the last minute for the second time this month. You don't argue. You don't complain. You don't make a scene. You simply go out and do something you enjoy alone. And when she wants to schedule the next date, you have other plans, not as revenge, as a natural consequence. Your time has value. If she doesn't respect it, you invest it elsewhere. Simple, direct, effective. Fourth, prioritize your purpose. You need something greater than the relationship. A mission, a goal, a direction, something that is yours. That doesn't depend on her. That won't die if she leaves, because as long as she is your only purpose, you will be a slave, and slaves are not respected. They are used. This purpose doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to change the world. It can be your professional development. It can be a personal project. It can be a skill you want to master. What matters is that it's yours, that it moves you, that it gives you a reason to wake up beyond pleasing her. Because a man with his own purpose is attractive. A man who lives to please a woman is pathetic. Fifth, practice non-reactivity. She will create chaos. That's what they do when they sense change. When they realize they've lost control, she will push all the emotional buttons she knows and you will breathe. Observe, respond, not react. Maintain your frame, your territory, your calm, even if inside you are at war. On the outside, you are a fortress. The technique is simple. She creates drama. You take a deep breath. Count to 5. Respond calmly. I understand you're upset. Let's talk when you're calmer. And you leave. You don't run away. You leave. With dignity. Without rushing, without drama, you remove your attention, your time, your energy, until she returns to an emotional state where productive conversation is possible. This is not punishment. It is self-preservation. This is not love. Every action has a cost. When you set boundaries, she might leave. When you maintain your frame, she might call you insensitive. When you prioritize your purpose, she might say you don't love her. And maybe she's right. Maybe you don't love her. Maybe you love the idea of her, the fantasy, the validation, but not her. Because real love requires mutual respect. And there is no respect where there are no boundaries. Some will say this is being an asshole, sexist, selfish. These are the same ones who are dying inside in relationships where they are treated like trash. The same ones who take antidepressants to endure their marriage. The same ones who masturbate in secret because their wife hasn't had sex in months. They need to believe you are wrong, because if you are right, their entire life has been a lie. Observe these men. Really observe. See the empty eyes, the slumped shoulders, the forced smile, the nervous laugh when their wife humiliates them in public, the awkward silence when someone asks if they are happy. They are emotional zombies, relational, living dead, existing, not living. And they want your company in misery, because shared misery seems less miserable, but it's still misery. She knows exactly what she's doing. Others will say they are afraid of losing her. Losing what exactly? The right to be disrespected daily, the privilege of paying the bills while being treated like a child. The honor of begging for crumbs of affection? If that's what you're afraid of losing, you've already lost it. A long time ago. You just haven't admitted it yet. The truth they hide from you is simple. No woman respects a man without his own territory. She might like him, have affection, feel pity, but respect, never. And without respect, there is no attraction. Without attraction, there is no desire. Without desire, you are just a friend who lives in the same house, a roommate who pays the bills, an intimate acquaintance she tolerates. This is exactly you, and the clock is ticking. Every day that passes, you get older, weaker, more invested in the lie, harder to change. You have one life, one, singular, finite, and you are wasting it being an emotional doormat for someone who doesn't even respect you. How much longer will you endure? How many more years of silent humiliation? How many more nights lying next to someone who sees you as a useful appliance? Think about yourself 10 years from now, 20 years, on your deathbed, looking back at the life you lived, or rather didn't live, that you wasted trying to please someone who would never be satisfied, trying to gain love that would never come, trying to be something you never were, and realizing too late that you had a chance, an opportunity to be real, to be strong, to be respected. But you chose the easy path, the cowardly path, the path of the man without territory. You are getting older, now, at this moment. As you read this, time doesn't go back, opportunities pass, and you remain trapped in the same unhealthy dynamic, waiting for something to magically change, for her to wake up one day and respect you, for love to conquer all, for sacrifice to be rewarded. It won't, never will, unless you change. Now, today, at this moment. There are two types of men reading this: those who will continue the same, rationalize, justify, find excuses, say their case is different, that she's not like that I'm exaggerating. These will continue dying inside, slowly, silently, until there's nothing left but an empty shell that was once a man, like Phil, like Greg, like Ron, like you have been until now. They will close this text, go back to their routine, to the comfort of known humiliation. They will continue smiling while being disrespected, continue giving in while being diminished, continue pretending everything is fine while dying inside. And one day when it's too late, when there's no more time, no more energy, no more hope, they will remember this moment, this opportunity, and they will regret it deeply, bitterly, eternally. And there are those who will wake up, realize the truth, feel the pain of reality, and use that pain as fuel for change, for action, to reclaim their territory. These will suffer. At first, they will face resistance, conflict, perhaps lose the relationship, but they will gain something much more valuable: self-respect, dignity, intrinsic worth. They will become real men with boundaries, with purpose, with their own territory. These men will look in the mirror and like what they see. Not perfection, not ease, but integrity, authenticity, real strength. They will sleep in peace knowing they lived according to their values, that they didn't sell themselves for crumbs of affection, that they didn't trade their soul for false harmony. They will attract women who respect strength, not who exploit weakness. They will build relationships based on mutual admiration, not on pathological dependence. One day time runs out, for everyone, for you, and when that day comes, you will look back at the life you lived, the choices you made, the man you were, and you will have only two options: pride or regret. Pride in having lived on your terms, in having maintained your boundaries, in having been respected, or regret in having wasted the only life you had being a doormat, being weak, being nothing. You have one life, one chance, one moment, this moment. A weak man explains. A strong man acts. A desperate man begs. A man of value leaves. A man without territory gives in. A man with boundaries holds his ground. The question is not whether you can change, it's whether you will change. If you have the courage to face the truth, to admit you've been weak, to recognize you need boundaries, to accept you deserve respect, or if you will remain in the comfort zone of familiar humiliation, where it's safe, predictable, known, even if it's miserable. I know it's hard, that it hurts to admit, that you've invested so much in this dynamic that it seems impossible to change. But the alternative is worse. It's dying slowly, a little every day, until there's nothing left, until you are just a memory of what could have been. You deserve more, not from her, from yourself. You deserve to respect yourself, to value yourself, to have your own territory, to be a real man, with a backbone, with boundaries, with intrinsic worth that doesn't depend on anyone's validation. But this requires action, now, today, real change, not promises, not intentions, not planning. Action, identify a boundary, communicate it, maintain it, suffer the consequences, grow with the pain, become stronger, more respected, more of a man, or continue as you are, dying inside, begging for crumbs, being stepped on, used, discarded. The choice has always been yours, but now you know you have no more excuses, no more pretending ignorance. You know the truth about her, about you, about what you need to do. Change begins with a decision, a choice, a moment of courage. This could be that moment, or it could just be another wasted moment in a life of wasted moments. The difference is in you, always has been. The question is, will you finally choose yourself, or will you continue choosing her approval over your own dignity? The choice is yours, always has been, always will be. Stop being an idiot, or keep being one. But don't say you weren't warned, that you didn't know, that no one told you. I told you now, clearly, brutally, honestly. The territory is yours, or it was, until you gave it away. The question is, will you reclaim it, or will you die without even trying? Time is passing, now. As you read these final words, every second is a choice, to continue as you are, or to change, to accept disrespect or demand dignity, to be the man she steps on or the man she admires. There is no middle ground. There is no later. There is now. This decision, this moment, this life, the choice is yours and always will be.